What's up, guys? We are doing a regular season recap. We are going into playoffs. Sorry it was a little later. Had some things come up at home, but this will probably be a quicker recap for you. But we are into the playoffs. We have some cool matchups. Let's talk about them. But first, let's get to the standings. You have myself, 12-1, first place. Mikey Din gets a bye at 9-4. Wyckoff, third seed, 8-5, tied with Omar, 8-5. Omar's first playoffs, Wyckoff's second playoffs in a row. Then we got Loomski, 6-7 at the 5 seed, and Mr. Reggie, also 6-7, finishing out. Which means Jim, 6-7, Hoff, 5-8, Ellsbury, 5-8, Kevin, 5-8, Mikey T, 4-9, and Cage, 4-9, do not make the playoffs. I would be remiss if I didn't at least look at last week's scores to roast Omar just for a second. Let me pull it up on my computer. Omar loses to Wyckoff, 140.5, 84.6. Omar gets a bumbo right before the playoffs. Hopefully that's your one and done out, where you get your bad mojo out of your system, but can't put up 84 and win in a playoff game, so we'll see what happens with you, Omar. We had myself beating Millardsky. You had Lumen crushing Ellsbury. Ellsbury decides to wake up and use his waiver wire budget to block some people, which I'm not opposed to, but it will only hurt other people and not really help your team. Spend your money sooner. Maybe like Mr. Matt Register, who happened to win 188.4 to Mikey T's 145.8. Mr. Din won against Hofstetter, eliminated him from the playoffs. And then Cage goes out on a W, 142.8, hoping to keep that momentum maybe going next year so he does not get that back-to-back DS. So what does this mean? This means we have a couple matchups starting today. We have Mr. Lumen versus Omar, and then Reg versus Wyckoff. Pretty close matchups when you look at ESPN projections. Looks like Lumen's projected for 155.1 to Omar's 157.5. Reggie projected for 171. Wyckoff projected for 169.5. So we got some close matchups, some close spots. So we'll see what happens there. Myself and Din get the buys. So just want to say awesome regular season. I think we had a lot of activity. We'll see what happens with the playoffs. We'll see what happens with Jim's photos. I know some people were texting about that, so we'll see what happens there. And, I'd like to see who you think is going to take this championship down, because I will be down to bet on some games and some matchups, some odds. So, Cage, I know you're probably rooting against me, because if I happen to win, we subtract my wins from your wins. 12 minus 4, that's 8. So that's 8 pictures for you next year, Cage. So maybe you'll be rooting for Omar. You'll probably be rooting for Reggie or Lumen with only 6 W's. That only equates to 2 pictures. So wouldn't it be good if someone who's under 500 actually wins our championship? So I got to assume that Lumen and Reggie aren't going to win. But I'll tell you what, Reggie's team looking pretty scalding hot. Philip Lindsay, probably pickup of the year. RB1 status for him. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, let's light up the text thread. I imagine that maybe a couple of you that aren't in the playoffs, maybe you'll put us on Do Not Disturb if you haven't already. But let's do it. Good luck in the playoffs, boys. And for those who aren't, do better. Draft better. Wyckoff was literally streaming a Dave Matthews Band concert while drafting. Didn't draft the best, but is able to get in the playoffs. So if you didn't get the playoffs and this is like back-to-back seasons of not, do better. If you're someone like Mikey T, who was in the playoffs last year and then, ties for cage with last place, yes, Le'Veon Bell's a reason why, but you could have had James Conner. You rejected that trade. So do better if you want to get in the playoffs next year. I'd like to hear some predictions. Peace.